In the late 1800s, in a land where only men ruled and only men sat on the stool of power, a woman did the unthinkable. She took the stool. Her name was Wangu wa Makeri, and she would go on to become the only woman ever appointed as a chief under British colonial rule in Kenya. But how did she rise in a time when Kikuyu women were expected to remain silent in the background? And how did it all come crashing down? Not with war, not with scandal, but with a dance. Stay tuned to find out. In the misty highlands of Murang'a, where the green hills stretch like waves across the land and stories pass through generations like wind through trees, long before independence and long before women were seen as leaders or considered fit for leadership, before the rise of African feminism, one woman broke every rule and took a seat no woman had ever taken before. Her name echoes louder than most, Wangu wa Makeri. Wangu did the unthinkable. She ruled. It is said she ruled with iron authority, that men lowered their gaze when she passed, that even the British, who had little respect for African leadership, let alone African women, gave her their recognition. But her rise was as remarkable as her fall, and it all began, as many stories do, with silence, observation, and boldness. Wangu was born in the late 1800s, during a time of dramatic change. The Kikuyu way of life was under pressure from an invading foreign power, the British colonial administration. Taxes were being imposed, traditions were being disrupted, and new systems of rule were taking root. During Wangu's time, women were expected to obey, first their fathers, then their husbands. She married a man named Makeri wa Mbogo, a local headman tasked with tax collection and law enforcement on behalf of the British. Through him, she began to understand power, how it was held, how it was feared, and how it was used. In this shifting landscape, Wangu's intelligence stood out. She had an uncommon grasp of both her people's customs and the working of the new colonial system. But as a woman, she had no formal place in leadership. Instead, she worked in the shadows, advising her husband. Over time, her intelligence and organizational skills had become impossible to ignore. Wangu's presence in village affairs grew. She was the one neighbors approached in times of concern instead of her husband. She was the one who explained the colonial order in a language people understood. She listened carefully. She solved problems efficiently and fairly. And most importantly, she understood how to balance tradition with the demands of the colonial government. Slowly, word spread that Wangu, not Makeri, was the one people trusted. When Makeri became ill, the British faced a dilemma. The region needed leadership and fast. The community faced a crisis. Who would lead? The elders, impressed by Wangu's ability, made an extraordinary suggestion. She should take up the role. The British were skeptical. A woman? A chief? But with no better option, and eager to keep taxes flowing and order intact, they surprisingly approved. In 1902, Wangu wa Makeri was made chief, the first and only woman to hold such a position in colonial Kenya. It was unprecedented, it was revolutionary. Wangu's leadership style was strict, but effective. She was known to patrol on foot, inspecting villages herself. She enforced order, resolved land disputes, settled domestic conflicts, and ensured tax compliance with unwavering discipline. Her authority was absolute, and it shocked many. Some accused her of being too harsh, of punishing male offenders with public humiliation. Others whispered that she had betrayed her own people by serving the British. The most infamous story, true or embellished, is that she once ordered a group of delinquent men to kneel naked before her as punishment, reversing the humiliations women had often faced. It was a stunning act, not just of discipline, but of social rebellion. Many saw it as vengeance. It was a turning of the tables, and it sent shock waves through the village. Men who were used to being in charge suddenly found themselves bowing to a woman. This reversal in roles stirred deep discomfort. Some admired her strength, others feared her resolve, but all respected her. Wangu didn't just lead, she ruled. She sat on the chief's stool, held the baton of power, and made decisions that carried the weight of law. Yet there was growing resentment. Some elders accused her of overstepping, of humiliating men in public, of abandoning Kikuyu norms to serve the colonizers. Her critics were loud, and her most infamous decision added fuel to the fire. Still, Wangu endured. She held power for nearly 5 years. But then came the Kibata, a traditional celebratory warrior dance typically performed by men. One evening, during a communal gathering, Wangu joined in the dance. The crowd roared. A chief, a woman, dancing with her people. It was a rare and beautiful sight. But then, she slipped. She fell to the ground. In a flash, her body was exposed to the crowd, and with it, so was her authority. For any leader, it might have been a minor embarrassment. But for Wangu, it was a cultural catastrophe. In Kikuyu tradition, especially under the public gaze, a fall carried spiritual weight. It was a sign of shame, of weakness, of a broken promise. In a society where female modesty was deeply tied to honor, this public accident became a scandal. Her enemies seized the moment. Whispers turned into shouts. The colonial officers, uncomfortable with her power all along, now had a reason. The British asked her to resign. And so, in silence and sorrow, Wangu wa Makeri stepped down. Not because of failure, not because of rebellion, but because she dared to dance. Her reign had ended, but her legend had just begun. To this day, she is remembered as a woman ahead of her time, a chief, a judge, a symbol of power in a world that wasn't ready for her. Some view her as a collaborator with colonial power. Others see her as a feminist icon before the word even existed. But no one denies this. Wangu wa Makeri took the stool and changed the story. Stories connect us to our past, shape our present, and guide our future. African Legends and Stories is more than just storytelling. It is a bridge between yesterday and tomorrow, between tradition and modernity. Subscribe now and be part of this journey. Like, comment, and share to keep these legends alive. This is African Legends and Stories, where the past speaks and the future listens.